dear colleagues, friends, sponsors, supporters. I am Mare. I'm the chairperson of Estonian Reading Association, and I'm really glad to say you welcome to Estonia. There are three issues in my short speech. At first, thank you all you sending the proposals, because there is no conference without proposals. Thank you for scientific committee for reading those proposals, because without good proposals there is not a good conference. And thank you for our sponsors who supported our preparation and who will support our events here, because the conference without events is something very poor. Second, where we are. It's a little bit like basement. You are invited in the basement of Song Festival stage. I am used to be on other side, on upper side, singing in the choir where are 10,000, 20,000, sometimes even 40,000 people. There is the place where we follow our long tradition of Song Festival. And also I have to say that the Song Festival tradition is also a tradition of literacy. It is a history of literacy in Estonia. Because if you ask how the people 150 years ago knew that there will be a Song Festival, they read in newspaper. Here is the place we have had our singing revolution to express that we are able to have independent country, independent state. And now you are here. You know maybe that Estonians are not very religious people. But this place is a very holy place for many Estonians. So welcome here. And third, if we have guests, we try to share the best we have. And today we decided to share our sunset. As you know, we had many rainy days, cloudy days, but Meili Pandis decided that we will enjoy you with a sunset. And now it is there. We have also a folk song. We're singing to the sun, go, go, roll, roll, go away to sleep, go where are your brothers and your sisters. And I will start that song, and this is like lullaby for the sun. And if you recognize something you have heard already, then you can wave, or with your hands, or with your head, yeah? I saw some people waving. So if you recognize something, we came here to look, to search for a common language. And when you could recognize something, then we have a certain common language. This is the language of love and wonder. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm from Tallinn University, and also warm greetings from conference partner Keeleelu Private School. So I am now pleased to invite Tallinn Government Deputy Mayor Vadim Belobrovtsev.
Tere õhtust, daamid ja härrad, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, добрый вечер, дамы и господа. The name of the conference is Searching for Common Language. I guess the common language that we have to use here mostly is English, so I will, if it's okay with everybody, will say a few words in English. First of all, it was a beautiful song, thank you, and I won't do anything like that because I want to spare your ears, so I'll just greet you here. It's a great pleasure to host this event in Tallinn and to be one of supporters of this event. So I welcome everybody to the beautiful Estonian winter. You know, we have a saying in Estonia that an average year in Estonia is 3 months of winter weather and 9 months of bad skiing weather. This year it seems that it will be 12 bad months of ski weather, but maybe the summer will be better. What I would like to say is that I think that Estonia, it's the fourth conference, as I understand, the first time in Estonia, and I think that actually when we're talking about the literacy, then Estonia is the very right place to hold a conference like this, because literacy here was actually always at a very high level. For example, if we're talking about the end of 19th century, when it was like the empire of Tsarism time, then 95% of the whole population of Estonia actually knew how to read and write, and basically it was at the time a very impressive number. But we didn't stop there, and actually like in modern times we also have some results that we're actually proud of. Last year's December brought us some good news about the famous PISA tests, which are actually meant to, to show the level of literacy and education actually in the whole world. And it actually showed that, for example, in reading, mathematics, and nature study, our scholars, our kids in school, 15 years old was the average, are actually the first in Europe and the fifth in the whole world. So basically we can say that the level of education in Estonia right now is also very high. Thank you. Of course, it's not thanks to me, but you know, we're also doing our best here. And another question is, of course, what is literacy nowadays? Because I don't think that when we're talking and even holding a conference on the topic, then we're actually meaning that we're talking about the people who can read and write. I think it would be a pretty tough challenge to find a person in Estonia, for example, that can't read and write today. But at the same time, I think that one of the interesting topics on that conference that you will have here can be also what is literacy today? Is it, for example, digital literacy, the skills that you use, for example, to connect to other people around the world, to use the internet, to use the informational technologies that are also at a very high level, for example, in Estonia. That's just a remark. And so basically we have today the young people that maybe know better how to use the computer, how to use the different devices, such as, for example, smartphones and so on, then they can actually write with their hand, for example, or write without mistakes. I guess that's a big problem actually in our modern world. Is it good or bad that they actually know how to use the high quality technology nowadays, but don't know how to write without mistakes? Or their language, for example, is not that rich that it used to be when our generation, for example, was younger. That's of course another question maybe for you to speak about on this conference as well. And another topic, of course, is the same that is the name of the conference, Searching for Common Language. Our census of population actually showed that we have, besides the representatives of Estonian citizenship, of Estonian nationality, we have in Estonia the representatives of another 146 nationalities. And in my opinion, the idea of finding the common language between all of them so that everybody in our state could actually live happily and prosper, I guess it's a big challenge actually, and also can be a topic of many different conferences and seminars. So I welcome you all again. I hope that you will have some very constructive and interesting discussions here. And what else can I say? When for those who are not locals, when you are going back, then I hope that you will find another time to come here in Tallinn back again, maybe for another conference, for another event, or maybe just like as our guests, just to enjoy our city, our state, and maybe then the weather will be a bit warmer and better. Thank you.
Please hear the Tallinn University Rector Tiit Land.
Dear colleagues, guests and friends, so first of all, I would like to welcome you on behalf of Tallinn University to this place, to Tallinn and to Estonia. And I'm very happy that, like Vice Mayor of Tallinn said, that this conference meeting takes place in Tallinn and in Estonia. So some reasons why I'm happy are more symbolic and some are more real. So if I would start with a symbolic reason, of course, this is what also Mare already mentioned, that this place where we are situated right now is a very, very important place for Estonian language and also culture. So other side, this place, this last summer we had a song festival, which was anniversary song festival, 150 years, and some 30,000 singers were performing, and some 80,000 people were enjoying the songs and also culture. And even in Estonia we used to say that yes, we had the singing revolution late 80s, but even today, Estonians, I think all Estonians agree that even in today's this polarizing world, song festival is perhaps the only thing which unites all Estonians. So when we come here, gather this event, then we are all Estonians and we are not fighting with each other. So, but perhaps more real reason, but I said that I'm happy that this conference takes place in Tallinn and in Estonia, is that, well, you all know that Estonia is it's a small country. Well, Estonia is not a small country. Estonia is a very small country. Because our population is just 1.3 million. You can imagine this is average city in Europe or average village in China. And this means that about 1 million people on earth who speak Estonian. This is a very small number of people. This makes it very, very important for us, for Estonians, to preserve our language and culture. And this is written in our constitution that we have to do it, and of course schools and universities have a very, very important role in that. So we are happy to, of course, to share our experiences, how we do that, and I'm, as a rector of the university, sometimes I find myself thinking that, realizing that this is a kind of, miracle that in Estonia we have higher education, of course for education, but also higher education in our national language. And yeah, I agree with the Vice Mayor who said that in Estonia we really don't have a problem with literacy. Everybody can read and speak, but still we have some challenges. And for me, as director of Tallinn University, Tallinn University is also in Estonia kind of responsible. We have agreed with the Ministry of Education and Research that we are responsible for teacher training. So we have study programs on all levels, starting from preschool or kindergarten. Estonia is one of the unique countries that, or few countries, where we have a curriculum preschool or kindergarten. This is also some of our educational scientists, researchers, they suppose that this is also one reason why we are doing relatively well, or last time quite well, or even very well in these PISA tests. So yeah, we have study programs on all levels, starting from kindergarten through elementary school, high school. And one of the biggest challenges what I see today excuse me, is popularity, or I would say sustainability teacher training. And this is what I am referring to, that as what we see in Estonia, that teachers unfortunately are not very, teacher profession is not very popular. This kind of paradox that we Estonians, we are very highly value education. All, I mean, as parents, we want that our children get good education and they go to universities. And at the same time, teachers feel that their profession is not highly valued in society. So for me, this is, in one hand, this is a paradox, but I see really this as one of the most important challenges, for at least for Tallinn University, and I would say also in Estonia as well. So we see that every year we have, well, not less and less, but still we have very few candidates who come, who would like to study on teacher training program, and especially when it comes to high school, or let's say middle school and high school teachers, there's a real problem. I myself, I'm a chemist or a biochemist, and teachers in chemistry, physics, mathematics, also history, which is really a problem. And it's so dramatic that if this will continue another 10, 15, 20 years, and in 20 years we will have no teachers. But or maybe we don't need teachers at that time, because Google can do everything, and artificial intelligence will help us, but still this is a real challenge. So we're really working very hard towards making this teacher profession more important. So yeah, having said that, once again I would like to welcome you to this conference, and I hope that you will share with us your experience and good thoughts, how we can work together. And well, yeah. Weather is fine. I will just, when I will finish here, I will go and do some cross-country skiing, but, if I find some snow. But enjoy this place, enjoy the conference, have fruitful discussions, and come back to Estonia. Thank you.
For our first plenarist presentation, I please hear Janar Holm from State Audit Office, learn a new language and get a new soul.
participants of conference and visitors. I didn't plan to start with weather, and even I didn't plan to speak about weather, but everybody else did, and I have to say something. The Vice Mayor said that the Estonian year is 3 months of winter and 9 months of bad skiing weather. I have heard a better version about the Estonian year. This is not 12 months, but 9 months of hope for good summer and 3 months of disappointment. So last time when my colleague from Malta, president of Malta Audit Office, was in Finland, it's only 60-80 kilometers from here, he asked from us, from Finnish Auditor General, from me, how you people can live here. It is so dark, so it is a good question. We still live here. So, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share my thoughts on integration and language policies and the challenges they bring. Actually, I was really surprised by the invitation to make a speech at this conference on literacy. I suspect, I'm not sure, but I suspect that I am first Auditor General or President of the Supreme Audit Institutions to participate at the conference of the Federation of European Literacy Associations. Why do I suspect this? Because people probably don't immediately associate literacy with the auditing code or with the Supreme Audit Institutions. After all, the Supreme Audit Institutions are foremost auditing organizations that evaluate the efficiency of using public funds and the legality of operations. True, the toolbox of Supreme Audit Institutions also includes performance audit, which can be used to assess the government ability to resolve issues on the strategic level, analyze the causes of the issues in depth, and come up with ideas to overcome them. We, National Audit Office of Estonia, too have recently audited areas that have connection with the main subjects of the conference. For example, these audits concern the state migration policy choices, preparedness to accept beneficiaries of international protection, access to higher education, the state's activity in supporting the unemployed, etc. The organizer of the conference has indicated that one of the reasons why I was invited here was the audit on language training for adults, published some half a year ago, and the message therein. I can guess that one of the reasons was also the fact that I have spent a large part of my working life at the Ministry of Education and Research, 9 years of which as a Secretary General of the Ministry of Education and Research. This gave me a really good opportunity to be at forefront of education and language policy, because in addition to education, the Ministry of Education and Research also responsible for implementing language policy. Now, in my new role as an Auditor General, I can look back at what has been done and what is going on in the field of education from the distance, both in terms of time and space. Looking back, one hand critically, being some way in a contradictory position where I criticize my actions or omissions from the period I was working at the ministry, but on the other hand, constructively and with understanding, because I know how complex and time-consuming are issues associated with the integration of students of different cultural and linguistic backgrounds, and how much patience they require. It's a specific area there is need to find satisfaction from every little step forward, as this little step would be foundation for the major breakthrough. It's a topic where reckless rush can actually mean loss of time, and no other opportunities may come along if the first one is allowed to slip through. The conference has set itself the goal of finding a common language, as the title of the conference says. In its search, the conference has arrived at an important place for Estonians, as mentioned by the rector of the university and others. A place where the whole of Estonia finds a common language at the Estonian Song Festival for at least one weekend after every 3 years, approximately 3 years. For that one weekend, Estonians who rather tend to notice and emphasize differences are able to find unity and sense of togetherness, a feeling that people miss later during between the song festivals. Here at the Song Festival, students of Estonian and Russian language schools, choirs of different national and cultural societies stand side by side singing the same songs. This same Song Festival grounds is full of people during the Song Festival, as was mentioned before. There is desire to be here because people want to be a part of bigger soul. And here, at this moment, this common language was choral music. But music was probably only a medium, and the aim and the object of enjoyment for participants was breathing together the atmosphere of consensus. For me, the Song Festival is the highlight of Estonian integration, where emotions, at least on the large scale, are common, irrespective of a cultural and linguistic background of the people present at the grounds. There are many languages that can join or divide. I spoke about music, but in Estonia, where almost all state services involving digital data exchange are available 24/7, and people trust their solutions, and this results in wide using of e-solutions, you cannot avoid speaking about digitalization and digital literacy, as Vice Major also did. I do it here also, because in the information society, digital literacy too has become important enough that its absence would limit full participation in society. And in that case, the dividing lines does not run according to mother tongue. Cultural and linguistic background is not key, is not of key importance here in that case. Digitalization promises tremendous benefits, but it also raises complex challenges. New divides around access to and control of data, manipulation of information, cyber threats, inequality caused by the digital gap, and etc. For example, today, in 2020, well over half the people in the world are using the internet on a regular basis. And yet, a digital gap remains between those who use the internet as a tool for inclusive and sustainable growth for society and those who lag behind. The situation in Europe is also unsatisfactory. 170 million Europeans between ages 16 and 74, it is 44% of people, do not have basic digital skills. And this means that a large part of the population cannot fully benefit from the advantages of digital society. This in turn leads to lower competitiveness in the labour market and participation in society. Ensuring digital literacy is a challenge for all states. But now more about integration policy and language learning from the perspective of Estonia. As a representative of Supreme Audit Institution, I will give you a frank overview of some of the topics where we in Estonia are not exactly where we'd like to be when it comes to finding a common language. But I'd like to emphasize that despite the critical tone of the overview, I'm also proud about where the work of my former good colleagues at various ministries and institutions has brought us in this area. This criticism foremost demonstrates, as I said, how complex this topic is, and once again reaffirms how complicated human issues can be to resolve. Complicated because humans are not machines and cannot be simply reconfigured. People are that they are, and that's a good thing. The conference materials correctly point out that Baltic Sea countries have long experience of multilingual education, communication and culture. It's true and also applies to Estonia. Estonian experience is long. But has this experience always been taken advantage of and turned into success? What are the results, and can we be satisfied with these results? The short answer is generally we can, but we also know our weaknesses. One of the negative consequences of the occupation period of more than 50 years was that there are essentially two separate school networks in the general education system of Estonia. Estonian language general education schools and Russian language general education schools. Much effort has been put into bringing them closer, and much has been achieved in teacher training, curriculum development of teaching methodologies. But we are still here in Estonia in a situation where children with different mother tongues have no contact and common communication space in some region in Estonia. They live in the same town, but in different worlds. Over the years, we have looked for both a political and substantive agreement on how to bring the two different school networks together. The progress is slow. But generation after generation of Estonian and Russian-speaking young people live parallel lives. In a small, as I said, very small country, their trajectories seldom come into contact. And there is no communication between them. You already heard that Estonians are really proud of their results in PISA tests. This is really delight. What I consider particularly important is that according to the test, the socio-economic background has the least impact on the knowledge and skills of Estonian students compared to other European states. And also, according to the study, students of Estonian schools, both Estonian and Russian language, are very progressive. Our students believe that people can influence their intelligence themselves and are prepared to contribute to their development in order to secure a better future for themselves. However, in the PISA 2018 study, the learning outcomes of schools that the language of instruction was Estonian were significantly better than those of students with Russian language of instruction, estimated by up to 1 academic year. In the long term, looking back at the history of PISA tests, the difference in outcomes has decreased. But the latest PISA test results show that with this indicator, we are stuck behind a glass ceiling. The difference has remained, and there are no signs of substantial improvement. We could say, of course, that according to the PISA tests, Estonia has the best Russian language basic education in the world. But that doesn't matter. This is important. That is important is that there is a gap within the Estonian education system, a problem that needs to be resolved. Language skills, especially the proficiency in the language used in the state of residence, are necessary to participate in society. Language skills provide equal opportunities for making choices in the education system and competitiveness in the labor market. In more broad terms, it is also important for personal growth by providing opportunities for communication and ability to participate. It is a substantial problem if the education system does not ensure adequate language skills for everyone. In Estonia, a lot of effort has been put into improving the proficiency in Estonian among students with different linguistic and cultural backgrounds since the restoration of independence. The progress is visible, but has slowed down. Years ago, a goal was set in the education strategy that 90% of basic school graduates with a mother tongue other than Estonian and study in Russian language basic schools should be proficient in Estonian at least at a B1 level. This is a truly minimum level to be able to cope in an Estonian language upper secondary school. Unfortunately, the share of the basic school graduates with predominantly Russian language of instruction that have language skills in Estonian at the B1 level is only around 60 or 65%. One of the reasons for this is the poor knowledge of Estonian language of some of the teachers. For example, in the previous academic year, 8% of teachers of general education schools, vocational education institutions, and preschool childcare institutions did not comply with the requirements for language proficiency. This is due an area where a lot of effort has been put into for years. And again, there's progress, but this progress would be faster. Of course, there have been positive developments. Estonian and Russian-speaking parallel worlds are slowly and persistently starting to come together in the education system. The number of children with a Russian-speaking background going to Estonian language preschool, kindergarten, including the number of, and share of participants in language immersion, has increased year by year. Following the transition of upper secondary schools to Estonian language studies approximately 10 years ago, the proficiency in Estonian language of upper secondary school graduates has improved. But the number of young people with a Russian mother tongue that continue their studies in higher education after graduating upper secondary school is still, on average, 8% lower compared to young people with Estonian mother tongue. But what is the language proficiency of parents and adults in general? The self-assessed proficiency in Estonian among persons of other nationalities has gradually improved. While in 2008, 19% of people of other nationalities did not speak any Estonian, the number is now only 10%, according to the data of the Ministry of Education and Research. For a long time, there has been a perception in Estonia that permanent residents with diverse linguistic and cultural background have poor motivation to learn Estonian. Often that's certainly true, but not in most cases. A study published in 2018 shows that as many as 2/3 of adults with a mother tongue other than Estonian that have no active proficiency in Estonian would like to acquire Estonian or improve their language skills within the next 3 years. 2/3. But what about offering language trainings to those who want to learn Estonian? Last year, we audited the organization of the Estonian language training system for adults and found that the state's ability to offer free or affordable Estonian language training is at best limited to 20% of those wishing to learn. The reason for the insufficient offering is foremost the lack of qualified teachers, but also underfunding. The fact that the state is unable to offer suitable learning opportunities for everyone interested is a major problem, particularly for a nation with a small language and few people. When we saw the audit results, we reminded of the complaints against permanent residents with diverse linguistic and cultural background regarding their poor motivation to learn the language. Chinese have a saying about this. When you point a finger, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. That's the case. Integration of permanent residents with diverse linguistic and cultural background has been a challenge for Estonia. But now, since the beginning of the migration crisis in Europe, Estonia is facing new and even greater challenges to achieve social cohesion. Supporting the adoption, integration and language learning of newly arrived or arriving immigrants. This will test our language training abilities and the education system as well as other support mechanisms for integration even further. To conclude, it is undeniably a matter of national dignity that no one wishing to learn the language of their country of residence be refused the opportunity to do so only because the state wasn't able to offer training at the right time and right way. It's a common interest for the society and individuals to ensure communication between all members of society. It is also a matter of national pride if a person wants to learn the language of the state that they live in. And we should notice a little things. Maybe we shouldn't focus only on whether someone has achieved a language level A2, B2 or C1, unless the job requires such language proficiency. Additional skills below the language level are still additional language skills. Every word learned and even the simplest of sentences that help to bridge the gap in communication in everyday situation are valuable. I titled today's speech with a reference to a Czech: learn a new language and get a new soul. And so it is. But getting a new soul could be easier too. I don't know, are there some Czechs, but I wouldn't want to argue with the Czechs. but I believe that every word learned and every sentence picked up in a foreign language is what gives us new soul. A language learner gets a new soul once they have decided that they want to speak the language of their temporary or permanent home country and participate in the culture of that country. And then we all others have to do everything we can to support them on that journey. So, I hope that you enjoy these dark January days in Estonia and learn a word or two of Estonian to become one of those in the world who know Estonian language. So, have a successful conference and enjoy your time in Estonia. Suur tänu!
Thank you.